Madsen.
Go on.
Michael Madsen.
If Michael Madsen was in Kill la Kill, who would he play? Gamagori?
No.
Ryu!
Didn't we have to switch seats last time because this seat's taller? Yeah, you did forget.
Yep. Good call. We'll get it down eventually.
Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka.
So, I'm the JJ.
Hooked on a feeling.
He's hooked on a feeling. And today we're doing Reservoir Dogs. Put out in 1992 by Quentin Tarantino. This is going to be the first in our entire filmography for Quentin Tarantino. We're going to do one every Friday. Moving on to the actual movie, we start with this like scene with all the characters in the diner, and they're doing this 360 shot, trying to almost kind of like, it's like spinning around the table, and you get to kind of introduce each character by visually.
Oh yeah, we're on topic.
That'll derail real quick.
But Hasselhoff was a great comic book Nick Fury.
The tip speech during that whole thing with Steve Buscemi.
A lot of great points.
It actually has a
lot of great points.
Actually has a lot.
I won't lie, a lot of great points.
I actually worked not as a waiter, but like as a delivery boy and for a chain, and I know people who wait tables. I know that a lot of them do make sometimes less than minimum wage, and they rely pretty much heavily on their tips.
Yeah.
But that being said, everything he says is true. You have the ability to quit. Like this speech alone almost brings
that's just it. That entire speech, he just basically summed it up. Listen, the government's why they don't get paid right.
Right after that, when we get the slow motion shot of all the characters going down the street, am I the only one who thinks like that seriously makes me miss well done opening credit sequences?
Yes.
I am the only one who thought that.
No.
Okay. Wow.
No, that was a well done sequence. It's almost iconic to the point where it's even the box art essentially for the movie.
Oh yeah, the shot of all
it's
of them
the
walking.
poster.
Yeah. Whenever you see someone wearing a T-shirt for Reservoir Dogs, it's that shot.
Even brown and blue themselves.
Yeah, which is so weird. That if there's a nitpick that I could potentially put forth with the group. Maybe it's that, I guess Brown, because it was Tarantino, he didn't care too much. He could just kill himself off and continue without the character.
Still don't really get the name, though.
But, it's Brown, because it's
no,
like
I mean Reservoir Dogs. I still don't get the name. Like, you said the thing about, like,
well,
the dumping bodies in the reservoir, but these guys are just thieves. This has nothing to do with dumping bodies.
I mean, that's true. The only one who would be that would be Michael Madsen, potentially.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a fair point. I think I remember reading something on IMDb where it was, because I could be wrong, but I think I remember reading something where the name was actually said because there was something that was said to him frequently along the lines of, like, when he would go to a movie store, that's what it was. When he would go to a movie store, he'd go to the clerk and he'd give some weird French, like, foreign name or something like that, and the guy would be like, I ain't watching no friggin' Reservoir Dogs. And so he named the movie Reservoir. I'm not kidding, that's something along the lines of what I read.
They talk about regular things. That's how they keep themselves sane while working with each other, is having these, like, discussions about actresses and
Madonna
and TV shows.
Madonna's like a virgin, totally, like,
yeah.
She's addicted to dick.
And life conversation, even though they don't even know each other's fucking names.
That's true. For people who are supposed to know nothing about each other, they all do seem really close. Because the only thing they're supposed to talk about, which they say in the movie later on, is the job at hand.
It's trying to keep it, like, close-knit while being professional.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also, like, shows that, you know, people who do these things in reality, they're not what the media or the police would tell you, where it's just black and white.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Like, these are regular people with regular lives outside their profession, and for the most part, the reason why people do professions like these is A, because it'll make them money, or B, because it's the only thing they're fucking good at. Michael Madsen's
Or as
own
we get
character,
into later.
Mr. Blonde. Mr. Blonde is a fucking psychopath, and he's the only one here who's really black, completely black on the morality scale. You don't see Buscemi often play the character who's the no-nonsense guy.
Yeah.
He's like typically the insane guy, unfortunately.
Creepy, yeah, no,
or
yeah.
the creepy guy, but he's not the no-nonsense
Or the
guy.
bitchy
He's the
side.
guy who's constantly trying to remind everyone the whole fucking movie, let's be fucking professional, guys. I'm not pointing anything out. I'm just saying I'm using my fucking head, and what I'm seeing right now is there's a fucking rat, and you have like 3 other fucking people go, there's no fucking rat, dude. You're paranoid. But he points out a lot of really good points.
Yeah, I feel a
for
lot.
lack of a better word.
I definitely feel a lot of what he says is probably the best bet. Like early on,
if I was with a situation with
Early
this
on.
kind of guy, I'm gonna side with this guy.
funny enough, early on he says to Harvey Keitel, like, "Let's get the hell out of here. Go get the diamonds
Yeah,
now,
we
and
stay
let's
here.
get out."
We need to have our fucking heads examined.
And if they decided to do that, they would have gotten
They would have probably
pretty much
been
gotten
fine.
away scot-free. Those
Well,
two,
not white, but I know they didn't know Orange was a cop.
right.
Well, they never do.
Actually, in all
Only
fairness,
white knows that. Yeah.
in all fairness, Pink brought the possibility to, like, once again, listen to Pink. Always
Yeah.
listen to Pink. That's not a sexual joke at all. The opening credits. From there, we move to a jarring cut to Orange already dying. In the process of dying. He's been shot, he's bleeding out. He's even saying, I'm probably going to wind up dying.
And I like that as a point of contention, because if like you don't know anything about this movie and you just go into this movie, if you don't even know this is a Tarantino movie, I'd suggest for you recommend this movie to people who you think might like it, but at the same time, don't tell them it's a Tarantino movie.
Oh god, yeah.
Don't tell them what the movie's about. Just
Smart.
put it in, make them watch. They're gonna be like, "What the fuck is this about?" And then finally, as the credits are rolling, you just hear a guy screaming in pain. You're like, "What the fuck's going on?"
That's one thing about this movie is you never quite know when the cop is being the cop or if he's genuinely feeling emotion for these people. You think he sort of has to, specifically Keitel, who genuinely seems to care about
That's just
him.
it. That's just it. It's known that.
Or is it supposed to be the morality?
I don't know if it's a
shake
trope
up.
or if it actually happens. I think it might actually happen is people who are undercover for a while on jobs.
Oh, absolutely.
They get
Start
to
to
know these people. They get to understand these people and befriend them. And I have no doubt that they do actually feel bad because at the end of the day, they have a job to do. They have a civic responsibility.
It's also because, as you said, Harvey Keitel seems, or Mr. White, seems like the guy to actually potentially help.
Like if that
Madson's fucked.
if that ended with all of them alive, that's probably the only guy who would have like the least the smallest prison sentence.
I feel so bad for Keitel, but at the same time, he's kind of still despicable. But after he lays him down, like I was trying to say, he lays him down, and there's this line where he's just like, "Take me to the hospital, I won't say anything, I promise I won't say anything," and he seems genuine about it.
You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. And Keitel, you could tell he wants to do it so bad. He wants to literally, like, help this kid, but he literally knows he can't do it, and it's just a gut reaction in my stomach that's just... also, I mean, they kind of answer it also how, like, the cops don't just bust in and stop everything. Once again, they answer it semi...
That's a weird one.
They answer it semi in the movie by him saying, like, be patient.
I mean, no, you answered it sort of, they had to catch them in the act of it, and technically none of them had the diamonds on them.
Arguably... we'll get to that at the end. Arguably, there's someone chilling in Maui.
And that's why if Pink didn't get away, he's arrested.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because he may have grabbed the diamonds, he may have been smart and said, fuck it, and then he's the dude in Pulp Fiction.
While this whole thing's going on, you have Buscemi who comes back in, you have Keitel, and they all meet up in this warehouse.
And then he made a boardwalk empire. That was a terrible joke.
That was terrible. There's this one shot where it's literally Buscemi, because he comes in, as I said, they meet up in this warehouse, which was planned, and Buscemi's just walking back and forth, and he's actually out of the shot, and they're doing a stationary, very slow, it's like start stationary, and then starts slowly zooming in on Keitel, as he's basically just sitting there, contemplating his decisions, thinking what's happening, realizing the shit that he's in.
This would normally be such a terrible shot to make in a movie.
Since we're not on the focus of the one talking.
Yeah, and it just seems like it would be boring, yada yada, but you got Buscemi in the background
filling his head while he's thinking.
Trying to like voice his concerns, and then you've got Harvey Keitel, Mr. White, trying to contemplate the issues at hand, like anyone in that scenario would try to do, any rational person in that scenario.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's just, the shot works. In any other movie, you know, people fuck up a shot like this all the time, but Tarantino is a fucking camera genius.
He really is. And even dialogue, I say, although this one's probably
he's one of the few directors that seems to understand that there needs to be some sort of motion in still shots.
Yeah, moving from that, they had the whole conversation about the other people who could potentially still be alive. We know, I believe they mentioned that Brown dies by Quentin. It was nice knowing you, buddy.
He wasn't going to play the role, but... I personally like when Tarantino likes to fit himself into his own movies. And it's funny, because unlike most people...
He's not a bad actor, by the way. He's pretty good.
Unlike most directors...
Not in this too much, but...
Unlike most of the directors who do like to throw themselves in their own movies, he doesn't seem to do it for a self-filleting way. He just does it because, you know, someone else doesn't show up, or because...
Things didn't work out casting it.
Yeah, or because, like, fuck, he didn't account for someone...
Fuck it,
he throws himself in there.
Fuck it, it's a small role, it doesn't really matter. I'll just do it, save some money and time. Positive.
What's Mexico? Mexicans. He just knows how to be so offensive and funny about it.
It's a cheat. It's not technically his movie in that it's written, directed, it's written by him.
He knows how to
do it.
He knows how to do offensive funny.
Moving on, because we need to keep going. The scene where Madsen shows up when they're talking about if blonde's okay and blah 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 and blue's okay, and you see Madsen show up with the soda in his hand, which actually was from his lunch. I'm not kidding.
They were coming back. He just walked on set.
The actor who played the cop, which is funny because they hung out.
That's another thing I love about Tarantino. I know a lot of other directors probably do this, but Tarantino just he just knows how to see gold for a scene.
Yeah.
Someone's just coming back from lunch, and he just like keep rolling, go.
Let him carry the soda into the shot.
Yeah.
That soda's not supposed to be there.
Like walking in Pulp Fiction, he shoved it up his ass. and like you can only just imagine Tarantino during the filming of these scenes just
as he's saying that, you just see everyone else in the background.
Yeah, everyone's looking at Tarantino, and they just see they look over, and I imagine Tarantino just has his jaw dropped, and he just keeps filming. Why the fuck are we talking about Pulp Fiction?
Get you.
We're talking about fucking Reservoir Dogs.
No, I know. But that's the thing about Tarantino is all of his movies are good. There's a single movie that I can honestly say is Tarantino's worst movie, and it's not even just the shittiest. It's just, I mean, it's not even that it's just complete shit. It's just the shittiest is what I meant.
Tarantino.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
What?
I'd say Death Proof.
That was a Tarantino movie?
Yeah. Tarantino did it, remake? And Rodriguez did the other side, which was Planet Terror.
The remake?
For Grindhouse.
Death Proof. Was that with Statham?
With Kurt Russell. The guy with the eye patch who used to do
What was the movie where Statham was driving the car?
Oh, that was Death Race.
That was Death Race.
Yeah.
No,
thank God he didn't do Death Race.
This is the same guy who's gonna fucking cancel Hateful Eight because some jackass decided to like leak the shit online or something. Which is probably Madsen. If what the internet tells me is true.
Also, speaking of Madsen, that's for getting back on track. High five. I swear to God, Madsen, in 99% of his roles, checks out. Half of this movie, he's doing. I
don't think he checks out. 1%. I just think he just knows how to act himself.
which is nothing.
That's not acting. It's just being yourself.
There's nothing there. He's a fucking empty shell of a man.
No offense to Michael Madsen. I loved him in Free Willy, but.
That's the weirdest. That's still the weirdest fucking one. The whole soda scene, it's like his dialogue is just like, I'm Michael Madsen, what's up? I'm drinking a soda, what's up? You bark as bad as you bite? Doggy?
He actually is from the Bronx, and I don't even think he is.
Was this supposed to take place in New York?
No,
where's this supposed to take place?
Looking at the surroundings, it looks like it's on the West Coast. I could be entirely fucking wrong.
I actually have no idea. I was actually asking the question. I don't know. But a lot of them seemed. The only reason I say that is a lot of them seemed to sound like New Yorkers. That's their like Harvey Keitel's been fucking doing over here. Like they're all the Italian New York. Even the two guys who hired them, Lawrence Tierney and his fat son. Like I
Lawrence
swear to
Tierney
God,
just sounded like an old Italian mafioso.
No, yeah, but that sounds like it would be in New York. Like you know what I mean? It's not that they have to be from New York. It just sounds like it
He
works.
sounds like he'd shoot his nephew for being a snitch. He actually did try to shoot his nephew.
Google.
In real life.
Google. Speaking of Madsen, he takes, after a little bit of talk, he takes them outside, he pops the trunk open, and we see the cop that he has tied up, and as they shoot from inside the trunk, they kind of have this one transition period where you see the cop in him, and you get that he's a psychopath now, completely get it. And then they go back and they show you his backstory. And there's only 3 backstories done here, and it's Mr. White, then you see Mr. Blonde, and then you see Mr. I almost said Mr. Pink. Wow. Yeah, no. So they have this shot where it's in the trunk, and they transition from that to his backstory, and the way that they transition is just fucking perfect. You get it instantly when he pops the trunk open, and you're like, okay, he's a psychopath. They show you the backstory, you get it, he's a psychopath. Then you see how he's brought to this group because he's a psychopath, and they just seem to think he's lucky, is the exact line. You're a lucky rabbit's foot. Because you didn't shoot 5 people in 2 or 3 fucking runs. Vic Vega and Vince Vega are actually brothers, and Vince Vega's from Pulp Fiction, John Travolta's character.
You know, I really wish he did get that movie about the Vega brothers. Because thinking about it, their characters are very similar.
Oh, no, absolutely.
They're both fucking nuts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That would have been great.
He was actually going to make a movie, and I actually think I have the name written down. 1 second.
You know, he could.
It was like the V Vega. It was like the V Vega brothers or something like that was the movie.
You know, he could still do a Vega brothers movie, just with younger people and about their younger lives. What caused them to be what they are?
Oh no, absolutely. Their father has to be the fucking greatest dad.
Their father and mother have to be like the biggest pieces of shit.
Yeah, to make these 2 kids. But
you don't get this from a single parent.
At least Vince has a soft side to him. Vic, like he's clearly the worst brother. He was gonna be he's gonna be a normal kid. Then Vic Vega turned him into John Travolta. But
am I in the closet?
There's the scene where with the cop and the straight razor in the ear. That, despite not showing, you actually...
It doesn't show him cut the ear off.
It's the most haunting, visceral, disgusting, gut-wrenching scene in the movie for me still.
Yeah, because you're just like, oh, you almost feel like the knife starting.
The dance he's doing with it, the way he's like joking, he like holds the ear up. Hey, you hear me? He throws it away. It's this fucking disgusting.
Yeah, and what's so real about...
squeamish either.
What's so real about that is like, this is what actual psychotic sociopaths
totally feels real.
Do.
Totally feels real.
People who just love to hurt others, do whatever the fuck they want, they do things like this. They don't care. And it's also worth mentioning, like...
He clearly doesn't care.
He
walks out in the streets dancing to get gasoline out of the car across the street.
He's so fucking shady that he has a forest walking with him. The issue is, like, he hacks off the ear, you don't see it, which, you know, again, indie film, and then it doesn't even show you when he's talking at the guy's head's turned, and you're thinking, well, clearly they did this because they can't really show the hacked off ear because they don't have enough, and they show you anyway the prosthetic they use, and I was like,
for an
why not just show it? Yeah, why?
Good prosthetic.
Good prosthetic, but like, why not just show that to us immediately? Maybe they couldn't get the blood. I don't fucking know.
I mean, once again, he did. Tarantino had a medic on set. Maybe they specifically tried to like shy away from it because maybe it didn't look like realistic enough, or maybe because when you really look at
maybe
it,
maybe the prosthetic wasn't there when they were shooting the scene.
That's true. That's a possibility. I was gonna say maybe the medic was telling the guy to reel around more because the actual like loss of an ear would cause more imbalance and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
He did have his head.
There might be. That's what I'm saying. There might be some like medical conditions I don't know about that might actually be caused on by spur of the moment.
Then I was talking to Orange. There was that weird focus shot where like half's blurry, but the dude's head's in focus, but then the other half of the screen, Orange is in focus, and the area around him is in focus. So I don't know if that was just like an edit or like...
It's almost as if they literally focused it on the background where everything's fine, and then did one for the foreground, and then just kind of like put strictly the focused shot of just that character on that blurry black background as if
it was really weird.
Really weird. We get to go to Mr. Orange's backstory a little bit, and the whole Marvel thing is weird. It's
Silver Surfer
weird.
Poster, the Thing
action figure. I think there was a Human Torch that fell.
The Thing.
There was another. Do you remember the samurai one that was next to Silver Surfer?
No. I didn't notice that.
It was like a cowboy or a samurai, and I didn't recognize it. It's going balls
deep. Cowboy Samurai. That was a game in the 90s, I think, for the PS1.
Should be remade now. That would sell wonderful.
But it was terrible.
Actually, no, it wouldn't look at Cowboys vs. Aliens. Here's the two weird things about the Marvel stuff for Mr. Orange for me is, one, I'm not trying to place, like, stereotypes.
Go watch Seven Samurai!
Do it. Not relative to this at all, but do it.
I'll use that for a Seven Samurai review.
Yeah, okay. It's weird because I don't feel like Mr. Orange is the type of character to like comics. I know that's not something you can judge in someone, but it feels weird when they reveal it. Almost like I didn't know this guy read comics.
It sort of makes sense. He's a cop.
It does. No, it does.
He's a cop. Maybe he grew up on the idea of superheroes. Because, I've heard that before from, from some teachers back when I was I was in chapel.
Going back to what we said before, I actually just remembered. I think the cop has LAPD on his thing, so I think it is actually California.
No, I didn't notice that.
I think.
I'll be lucky if I pick that up. Maybe that's why he had all those heroes, because again, comic book heroes can inspire someone to be a police officer or something.
No, absolutely true.
Especially back then when heroes were more campy and less serious.
Fair. But the real problem I have with that is, and it's not a problem so much as it just
it also points out his character better.
Tarantino, that's true, gives him a little more backstory.
It also could have just been like a temporary place he was living at to do the job.
Tarantino, that's true, but then he decorated it that way, or is that supposed to be towards his character, maybe?
I'm not sure here.
Tarantino also notoriously dislikes, or I can't say dislikes, notoriously doesn't put in a lot of actual name brand things, and then to see
multiple
Fruit Brute brand cereal
under a Silver Surfer poster.
Under a Silver Surfer poster is just like, well, that's fucking weird.
It's like, oh yeah, I'll put in Marvel fucking comics, but I'm not gonna bother to put actual real brand cereal. Pretend it's store bought.
And then while we're in his backstory, they show him, as we've said, getting the stuff. The mission debriefing, basically, you see him getting the 4 or 5 pages that he has to memorize for a bathroom story, which is honestly the best scene in the movie for me.
Those scenes were before the scene we were just talking about.
Well, no, I know.
The scene we were just talking about, he goes to the car, and then the ooga chaka, ooga 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 chaka.
Yeah, we're just going about though. We can always edit it in a proper manner.
Oh look, we're like a Tarantino movie, non-linear. We're gay.
Yeah. Yeah. You see he's going through the practice multiple times. He's going through the whole spiel. And you see him cutting from him alone in his apartment to him giving the speech to the guy who gave him the papers to him giving the speech to the people that actually he needed to give it to, which was the guy, the guy, Lawrence Tierney, his son, Harvey Keitel, and I think Mr. Blue. It's like some old guy I don't actually remember who matters. Doesn't really matter. Sitting at the table with him.
The old guy, Mr. Blue.
And it was Mr. Blue who was with him? It goes from him walking alone with the bat in his apartment to him talking to the guy that gave him the job, to him talking to the 3 or 4 guys at the bar that I was talking about, which was where you said Mr. Blue was the old guy, I think, with him. And then from there it goes to the actual scene of him recollecting it, which, even though it's not real, to the cops, and the cops are just stationary and the camera's just... It's such a weird choice. If you could honestly sum Quentin Tarantino up in one word, I think I found it. I think it's weird. And not in a bad way, at all. At all. If his worst movie's gonna be Death Proof, fine.
You watch this movie, and you listen to anything out of Mr. Pink's mouth, and then you sit and think on it, and you're like, wow, he's right.
Kinda right. It's almost Whiplash status, which we'll get to eventually. It's almost Whiplash status where you're like, I don't know if... I mean, he's absolutely right, but is it actually... Does it actually work that way? No, I know, it's hard to actually...
Again, the character I like most in the movie because he's the only one who's logically thinking. Crayon Buscemi, you can tell he's acting here. He's not scared to say it. He knows he's reading from a script.
That's actually for a reason. I remember telling you yesterday. Specifically, Buscemi... Mr. Pink's role was originally going to go to Quentin Tarantino himself. He literally told Buscemi, when he walked in to audition for the role, I want this role, you're really going to have to earn it. Orange and Pink, I think, honestly have the best chemistry, because there's that one scene where they're all together, and they're just legitimately talking. They're arguably the brunt of the movie together.
I don't think it was the chemistry more than I think Tim Roth knows how to, throw in a line, assuming it wasn't written and he ad-libbed it. because they're talking about the tips, and then at the end of it, Tim Roth, Mr. Orange, goes, "No, I know he convinced me. I want my $1 back."
That's what I'm saying.
I was like,
specifically the three of them, orange and white interact really well together. Pink and white interact really well together.
That to me felt like an ad-lib line. I probably entirely wrong, but that just felt like they knew where to go.
It is surprising. It is surprising sometimes what lines aren't ad-libbed, despite sounding so natural.
Yeah, no, he convinced me. I want my $1 back.
Yeah.
Not ever. Who didn't pay? Mr. Pink.
We can't.
Why not?
I'll use that as the transition.
Why not? You don't believe in it.
Oh, yeah. I just paid for your fucking dinner. You're gonna give me the $1.
Oh, because you paid for it, fine.
You cheap bastard. Who gives a...
And again, Mr. Pink. Since you paid for it, fine.
The line, though. No, I love the line, though. It's not... Although it's something I wouldn't normally do. Who gives a fuck about what you would normally do?
Lawrence Tierney. And then Lawrence Tierney's character, fucking Joe, reminds me that's totally me as an old man.
Pink, we can't talk about this movie without mentioning the scene of the nicknames being given. And
I quoted it before. Wait, Mr. Pink? Why am I Mr. Pink? Because you're a faggot!
Because you're a faggot, that's why.
Like, I can almost imagine my own grandpa in that scene. Because that's how, like, old school this guy talks.
Like, this is so weird because we're so far into this movie, we know shit is really hitting the fan, and it's such a weird place for a comedy moment, and it works.
I don't even think it's, like, intended to be a comedy moment.
It has to be. Because the second time...
It's funny because he's a foil character, and foils...
Lawrence Tierney.
When foils are like old men who are set in their ways,
grumpy.
Men who have experienced everything, who are grumpy, who appear grumpy, tall and intimidating, it's funny to just see that come out of their mouth so strongly.
It's okay. It's no big.
You're not expecting him to give you that as a reason, but instead come up with actual reason, and he just goes, "Because you're a faggot."
No.
Next question.
No, yeah, but no.
Doesn't say the next question, but that's what it reads like.
Not even. No, I think he does say what's next or something.
No.
He moving on. I think he says.
No. I'm pretty sure it cuts to Buscemi trying to argue against Mr. Pink.
He goes. This is my favorite. This is my favorite part of that scene. Is he just letting go? It's all right. I'll be Mr. Purple. No big deal here. And then just comes back to Lawrence Tierney. No, Mr. Purple exists on another team.
No, Mr. Purple, because Mr. Purple's on another job. You're Mr. Pink.
And then he goes over to Harvey Keitel and is just like, "Well, you got Mr. White. You want to trade? I wouldn't mind trading. There's no trading. This isn't a
negotiation or some shit.
This isn't a government board meeting or some shit like that."
Yeah.
And he goes back to him and he goes, "All right, fine. Then I'm Mr. Pink. All right, let's just move on.
Let's just move on.
And
I'll move on when I want." You can't win. You can't fucking win.
Tim Roth
got stuck
to the floor
to peel him off.
to peel him off multiple times. That's wonderful. That's how much blood they used. Also, it wasn't an unreal amount because once again they had a medic on set to actually measure that.
Also, again though, like that if that was why. He did a great job because people react to pain differently.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It didn't feel out of place.
He was moving around from all the pain,
oh, yeah.
trying to cope. About the comic books.
No, that's what I was going to say. He's more of
his character might have this idea in his head that, you know...
I guess that is naive, yeah.
Just be like a good guy, things will go well, and then, you know, obviously he didn't think Mr. Blonde is a fucking psychopath and just started shooting people up, which got the cops to draw their guns, and people started dying left and right.
Which I swear to God,
again, I think...
Fucking Madsen!
I think Tim Roth did a great job there showing that being visibly disturbed because he probably didn't have the idea that it would go down this way. I
don't know if it was intentional or not. He actually pointed this out to me as well. There's a scene where Tarantino dies. When Tarantino does that, you see the siren.
Yeah, the siren.
It actually
goes. Police siren.
It's at its peak of noise, so it's the same constant stagnant sound.
It hits its high pitch and holds it for a good amount of time.
Kind of like a flatline.
As it shows the dead Mr. Brown, and it sounds like a flatline.
Genius.
Accident.
Probably.
If that was an accident, that was a happy accident.
God was on his side.
That was a good job.
No, seriously. Pink gets out, arguably, in that case, jail would be better than death, so that's
world's
awesome.
smallest violin.
The weirdest end credits in the history of end credits. You put the lime in the coconut and get all up. But, the entire music budget...
out of the back and he's ready to attack!
The music budget was completely spent on the song, Stuck in the Middle with You, and which is the song that he uses to, Michael Madsen dances to it, cuts the ear off.
To deform the cop.
It was originally going to be Ballroom Blitz, but I believe the band is Sweet. And,
Quick note, or is this in the trivia?
What?
About the... Oh, no.
We're doing trivia anyway. No, I didn't put that in, so go ahead, bring that one up.
Part of the scene where Madsen's carving up the cop. Like, Madsen at the time was a father himself.
Recent father.
He was a recent father. And he had this
aversion, so to speak.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Aversion to violence and such, and that caused a few problems on set.
Specifically with his character.
Yeah, specifically with his character, who's a psychopath. And then he starts calling up the cop, and the cop brings up the line, "No, please, I have a kid at home," and then. As he says that, you hear, I think, Tarantino...
It's either him or Madsen.
...go, "Oh, no.
Oh, no.
And we read about this, and then we rewatched and watched the scene, and you hear it. If you look for it, you can hear it. "Oh, no. And
as well as a Wilhelm scream. The budget was so low, as I spoke about the music, they could only... his entire music budget was blown on one song.
Phenomenal fucking movie for an indie film.
Budget was so low that actors actually used their own clothing. There was no actual...
they all had similar suits.
The suits were actually donated for free for the most part. Actually, if you actually look at the pants, I believe...
why they don't look like...
I believe Buscemi and one other guy are wearing black jeans instead of regular pants. So there's a reason why we put Mia Wallace in this video. This movie has the most ties to Pulp Fiction as any other movie. It literally almost directly correlates because they also, if you notice, I don't know if you noticed this, they had a mention of Jackrabbit Slims. Which is the place where Mia and...
I'm not going to lie, I do not tend to notice these things.
Mia and Travolta dance in that place. So Mia and Vince. That's the dance scene. You know, the diner?
Like, unless it's like some, like, pop culture, like, thing, I don't recognize it. A restaurant?
Well, the big dance scene is...
a restaurant and whatnot, I'm not going to fucking recognize.
Yeah,
I don't recognize establishments.
James... Okay, now we're getting into the fun trivia. There's a lot of people that almost played certain roles in this movie. James Woods almost played a major role. It's assumed Mr. Orange was that role. So that would have been interesting. Buscemi actually auditioned for Mr. White. Madsen actually auditioned for Mr. Pink. Clooney was almost Mr. Blonde. And
Clooney?
And so was Walken. We almost had Walken and Clooney in the Mr. Blonde role. Walken as Mr. Blonde would have been
I'm stuck on
fucking
Clooney.
Wonderful.
Clooney would have been the psychopath.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what's funny?
What?
I think Clooney would have done that really well.
I agree with you.
Despite this being the time in his life where he just mostly played the same roles a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking in my head, From Dusk Till Dawn. He was in that, and he was he wasn't psychotic like Quentin Tarantino's character in that, but like you could tell he had screws loose.
Oh,
he was just a machine.
Sam Jackson.
We have a rat.
Sam Jackson almost got the role of Mr. Orange. That's a hard one for me to picture, not even gonna lie.
He should have been the black partner.
The guy who gave the guy who gave Tim Roth the
because
files.
all the lines that guy was saying sounded amazing.
So Sam Jackson. Yes, so Sam Jackson. The movie's effects were done for free on the condition that Tarantino do a movie for the guy that he was creating a concept for. I forgot the guy's name. I apologize. He's a very well-known special effects guy.
Fuck.
The movie he wanted him to write turns out to be
From Dusk Kurtzman or something.
From Dusk Till Dawn. Yes. Turns out to be From Dusk Till Dawn.
Before the final fact, there was the still shot where it's Pink and White talking in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And the camera's just not moving, but like you see Harvey Keitel making the hand motions, you hear Pink like kicking shit and wrecking shit out of anger.
At a shot, yeah.
And then like you see him walking around, the reflection on the tiles in the hallway.
You brought that up to my attention.
I was like, that might not be intentional, but you know that comes off well because that puts emotion in the
Good
shot.
thing he had Buscemi actually act anger and not just stand there while yelling, because that would have shown. But no, the final trivia fact I want to bring up is he guessed 30. This movie uses fuck creatively, granted.
I was way off.
272 times.
You know, any other movie, like any other director, I think would just spontaneously throw in fuck like every fucking line, and it'd be noticeable. Tarantino throws out swears and profanities in such a way.
Oh, it's frequent.
That it's so frequent, but you don't notice it because he just throws it out in real dialogue.
That's what it is. His dialogue, and a lot of people talk about this. His dialogue is so real, and it's almost like you're hearing a real conversation. In one word to describe this movie, if you could have one, what would it be? Because I think that you just said mine.
Wait.
Real.
A word?
A word to try and describe this. Because for me, I think it's real. It just feels like what would pretty much go down in this scenario.
A word to describe this movie. Great.
On that note, I guess we'll see you next time in From Dusk Till Dawn. Not Pulp Fiction. I was going to set it up, but I can't. Well,
Bring it back later. Bring her back later.